All right, hello and welcome everyone to the call number 12 of the Business Accelerator series with me, Swati Goswami. And I try and bring out these Business Accelerator series once in a while whenever I can, just as a way to contribute in whichever way I can. There'll be different topics about your businesses that we will discuss. Today, we'll be discussing something really interesting. It is all those places where we justify rejecting ourselves and subconsciously creating less clients, less revenues, less money for ourselves in our business. That's because of this particular subconscious belief where we are all the time, we don't feel enough, good enough, and we keep on rejecting ourselves. So let's dive deep into this. And in case any one of you have any questions, you can just unmute and ask me, or you can put it out in the messages, and I'll get back to that. So, cool. Now, when you're talking about most of us, most of us are very engaged in self-sabotaging, and we do it subconsciously. It's not a deliberate thing, but we do it very, very subconsciously. Okay. So what do? We do things that will hinder our own success, that will go against all that we want, and what we want the most. Okay, we keep hindering that. If we go against that, and then that is what causes our own destruction. Now, why are we doing that? So I'll be discussing throughout this call, I'll be discussing a lot of places where we are choosing to go do that. Okay. So it's very, very easy to assume like we have parts of ourselves that are totally against us. Okay. Almost like literally living with an enemy inside of our own skins. But what we don't realize is that these self-sabotaging parts of us or these enemies within are not enemies at all. Okay. So the way that consciousness works is that anytime we encounter difficult experiences, it's our own conscious fragments which are showing up constantly. Okay, these are all parts of us. These are all conscious fragments of us which keep showing up to create or trigger us. Okay, now even though we call ourselves by a name, by one name, okay, but each one of us have many different parts of ourselves. Okay, and these parts of ourselves exist in they exist like literally like Siamese twins because they share one body, the body that we call ours, but they have very, very different perspectives and personalities and values and reasons for being. Okay, these are all fragments of you. Now, these can be broken bits and pieces of you, which as you're growing up, somebody might have said something to you, or your teacher might have been really, really angry or must have said something, or different times when you felt really, really so bad that some part of your soul just breaks and fragments. Okay, now it has nowhere else to go. It is just around you. It's just there with you. So sometimes those start showing up and they'll end up triggering things within you. Okay. Now, so a huge, significant portion of our internal fragment itself are actually comprised of parts of us that contains traits that are very, very vulnerable. Okay? So things that didn't keep us safe in our specific environment earlier, and parts that are protectors for those vulnerable selves, which are us. Okay, I know I might be confusing you guys, but just get the gist of it, that the times you keep self-sabotaging yourself, the reasons why you're doing that is also being created by you, by your self-belief about certain things, by the different fragments of you that are around you, that are with you in your body, but those different spaces of consciousness that you're functioning from. Okay. Now, so like, if you give an example, okay, A person who grows up in a family, like it's a person who grew up in a family who only cared about productivity and disapproved of anyone who wasn't very busy or wasn't creative. Okay, they might have a very vulnerable part of themselves that is literally slow and loves to be in the present moment. Okay, and they might um, they might even have created an internal protector for that part which loves to be slow and live in the present moment. They would create an internal protector for that part, which is driven and disciplined and is constantly pushing you to. So what happens is we end up being something or showcasing ourselves or putting ourselves out there based on what our environment is demanding of us without actually choosing to show up as who we truly are. Okay, so we keep on, anytime any part of us wants to show up as who we truly are, we keep sabotaging that or suppressing that. Okay, now, so what most people don't understand, or yeah, they do not understand that, but what most people have actually come to understand is that those parts of someone that are self-sabotaging are actually, in fact, the protector parts within them. I hope I'm not confusing you guys, and I hope I'm able to explain it well. In case any one of you have any questions or queries, just unmute yourself and you can ask. Okay. So when I'm talking about all those self-sabotaging parts of you, who actually are protectors parts of within you, you can actually call them self-inverted advocates. Okay, you can actually consider these parts to be self-inverted advocates. Now, what exactly are these self-inverted advocates doing? So they're convinced that what they're doing is literally helping the person in some way, even if what they're doing has negative consequences. So they perceive that the harm they have chosen is less dangerous or painful than the alternative. This is a conflict within yourself that's going on. So the self-rejector or the inverted advocate part of you, when they are choosing to sabotage what you're creating, what they are actually doing is they think that they're protecting you, right? Somewhere, what if you become too much? What if you become the tall poppy who stands out? What will happen? You'll be killed, or people will hate you, or whatever. So it's the inverted self-rejector or the inverted advocate's job to protect you from being killed or being too much. So because they think they need to protect you, so they will create issues to sabotage things. Okay. So if you're wondering, why the hell do I keep sabotaging things? Why the hell do I keep self-sabotaging my own creations? Or why do I push people away, those people who actually genuinely have my back? This could be one of the reasons. So you will create a comfortable distance. You will create issues around them. And those issues will also be just based on assumptions, things that you've decided about them, which may or may not be true, but you need to also realize that it suits you to think that way about them, because then that way you can reject them. Okay. Sometimes when somebody is doing a huge contribution, you can't receive that from certain people also. So you find ways to create a comfortable distance. Why can't you receive that? Because you're not willing to be that kind to yourself, or you've never seen that kind of kindness. Okay. So if somebody's actually truly being kind, at times it's very, very difficult to see. Right? So you create that distance between yourself and them, and you push them away, you reject it. And then you feel, okay, cool. Now I'm on my own, and so did this, which may or may not be just an assumption, but it suits you at that moment to feel that way. So you're pushing people away. Okay. Is that creating for you? at that moment you think you are, it is creating for you, because now you don't have to, um, it's a protector part of you which comes into play, okay, where you think that you're doing it for the good, for your own good. Now, this is just an example where people are concerned. Okay? Similarly, you will also push away money, or you'll push away all the good things. Even in your relationship, you'll push away people who are really closest to you. You think that they don't, um, for whatever reasons, you just push them away because sometimes it is too good to be true, and you can't be so happy. So you will end up creating things. Okay. Now, so today we'll be mainly talking about that one specific unrecognized protector within people that causes that the most damage to a person's life, which is the internal self-rejector. And I thought it was a very, very interesting topic, and how many times we subconsciously keep doing that. So when we are young, to experience rejection is literally soul shattering. Okay. How many of us hate it? And how many of us have already been through that? So what that does is it not only causes us to feel like our survival is at risk, because we are relationally dependent as species. Okay, we are very codependent on people and things. So it causes us to form a self-concept that we are bad, wrong, or unwanted, or unloved, and defective, and the fact that we lack value. Now we grow up thinking that way about ourselves. Okay, so that's when the self-rejector comes into play, and we keep on rejecting anything good showing up. Okay? Now, so before you become very comfortable with the limited image in your head of rejection being something that only looks like a child who's sort of abandoned, or a child who's been scapegoated, or who's been made a scapegoat. Keep in mind that when a child in a family finds a way to start changing themselves, so to become exactly what the parent wants, that's more typical with the golden child. If you've learned about, if you've read anything about narcissism and stuff, where the parents will just choose one, like amongst the siblings, they will choose one child to be the golden child, where the golden child cannot do anything wrong in their eyes, and the other child is made to be the scapegoat, or every time you'll always have issues with the other child, but the golden child can do nothing wrong. But the thing is, what they don't realize is that when the parents literally want the kids to be exactly the way they want that, then a child will create himself or change himself or herself to be exactly what the parent wants. Underneath the praise or acceptance that they receive, they do feel as if their real self is rejected. Okay, so even though the child is choosing to be the golden child and being and doing everything that the parent wants, somewhere they feel rejected. They feel that the real self is rejected. Okay, they are receiving praises from their parents, but somewhere they're also choosing to be something that they might not really truly be. So they're putting up an image or a persona, or trying to fit in with whatever has been asked for. Okay, now so what happens is, so does a child in a family who's largely ignored, or who spends a lot of time alone, and who literally we might call more of a lost child. So the golden child also feels that way, and also the other child who's literally ignored, they also feel like a lost child. So rejection can literally take on different forms, many different forms. Okay. So what happens is, when we experience rejection, we subconsciously think that we have one hope of actually maintaining alignment with the people that we need and love, and the very ones that are rejecting us. So what we do is, we start triangulating against us. Okay. The only way to maintain the alignment, the only way to be with the people who are actually rejecting us. So we try to keep maintaining the alignment with that. We keep triangulating against ourselves. And what is that doing? It's not creating anything. So if those of you who think, okay, I know everything there is to know about business and creation, and I know I'm really good at it, but why am I not creating enough? Because you're busy triangulating against yourself. Because you're busy trying to fit in with the people who are constantly judging you, constantly rejecting you. So you will continue trying to maintain the alignment with those people and keep sabotaging your own creations, and you will deliberately choose not to create dynamically because that will push you away from these people and give these people more reasons to judge you. Okay? And they will not say that they're judging you for the success you're being or how successful you are, or they will not judge you. They will not say that they're judging you for the amount of money you're making, but they will judge you for, say, a simple thing like, you're neglecting family, or you're neglecting home, or you're neglecting us, or for whatever reasons. You're not good at this, or you're not good at that. They'll just find reasons to judge you, or even find ways to boycott you. Okay? Why would someone choose to boycott you? It's because somewhere they are jealous. They definitely are not liking how you're creating. So when they choose to boycott, that's their way of stopping you. What happens when people judge you? What happens? You stop doing what you're doing, right? So when somebody is judging you, you tend to just stop what you're doing, and then that's where they tend to have their ways. So you stop your big major creations. You stop everything so that you can fit in with the people who have actually been rejecting you all the time. Okay. So before I continue, does anyone have any questions or anything to do with any of those places where you've been self-sabotaging yourself, and all those places where things have not really been showing up for you? You can just unmute, and because otherwise I'll just keep talking, and sometimes certain things. My voice is not clear? Devi? Can you hear me? It's not clear? My voice is not clear? It's clear, right? Clear. Okay, cool. I just saw the message. Devi. I actually read it as devil, and I'm wondering, why would someone write that? It's Devi. Okay. Devi. Okay, it's Devi. Yeah. So, yes, go ahead, Samyukta.
Yeah, so Smriti, one question. Now you said if somebody judges, we stop creation and we stop what we are doing. So my question is, when someone's judging, there's a sort of energy. So even if you say, who does it belong, return to sender, and you sort of say that still affects you. So there is something that you have to push yourself to sort of still create. So my question was how to do that, because it does put the energy low, and then it takes a while to come back to yourself and then perform. How to be unaffected totally? That was my question.
First of all, random people judging you does not really make any difference. It's just the people who are the closest to you. When they judge you, and then you have no idea how to deal with it. Okay. Now, but the thing is, the moment you realize that people judge you only to stop you, so what's the value of stopping? And yes, then there can be your friends who are also constantly judging you. Now, why are your friends judging you? People who know you, who love you, who care for you, and who call themselves your friends would be very, very happy to see you grow. And if they're not happy seeing you grow, and if they're constantly judging you, then are they even your friends? So it's a good wake-up call for you to see who actually are truly there for you. And then there are friends who will pretend to be friends and are busy sabotaging you behind your back. Literally like stabbing you in the back. And then when you realize it, then you're like, oh my God, that's really interesting. So, but what are they doing? They're just taking the coward's way out because they feel they can go if they sabotage you or if they stab you in the back. That's how creating, right? Now, have you seen a lion when the lion walks in the jungle? You're not bothered. Let people say whatever they have to. It's okay, right? When an elephant walks and there are dogs barking, does it stop itself because the dogs are barking? It keeps moving at its own pace and its own way, right? So just because people are judging you, it again depends on you. What's the value of stopping yourself? You need to ask yourself that. And people who have already formed an opinion about you, just know, mind you, they form an opinion based on a version that works for them, that suits them. Okay, at that moment. It may or may not be true. Right? But they will judge you because it suits them. And a lot of times they will accuse you of something that they have been doing to you. So they'll accuse you of, say, maybe taking away clients, right? While all the time they are the ones stabbing in the back, taking away your clients from you. And because they sense something like this showing up, they start accusing you. But those are all assumptions. And just because they're accusing you, just because they're deciding this about you, and they're being over your energy with you, does not make it true. Now you have a choice to confront them and say, hey, what you're thinking is not true. Or you have a choice to just withdraw your energies from them and say, okay, cool. If this is what you choose to think about me after knowing you for such a long time, all the best. And continue doing what you're doing. So your response is what creates. Okay. Now, there are times, definitely there'll be times when things will feel really, really triggered. Okay. If you're getting triggered, you need to look within yourself. It's nothing what others are doing. It is some unhealed bits and pieces of you that is actually showing up at that moment. The broken bits and pieces of you which are showing up and getting triggered. So you can go to maybe an inner child healing or literally sit and ask questions. What unhealed part of me needs to be changed here? What exactly is going on with me? What is it that I'm being here? And who am I being here? And start asking lots of questions and things start shifting and changing. So every single time I get triggered, I literally start working on myself because what is the unhealed part of me? And also know people will do whatever they do because A, they can do it. Secondly, they are projecting their own insecurities on you. Just because somebody is projecting their insecurities on you does not mean you have to be the effect of it. But third thing is, you can choose to see what they're choosing to show to you and what you were always very aware of, but you kept discounting it because, you may be very fond of that person. So you can look at it and say, okay, cool, what needs to change here? For me, I just withdraw my energy because most people don't even realize how much of a contributive space you're holding for a lot of people in their life, right? So when someone starts being like this, all I do is I don't confront them. I don't say anything. I don't try and correct them or say that, hey, there's some misunderstanding. What you're thinking about me is wrong. It's not really true. You're just assuming things which are not true. I'm not going to say all this. I just say, okay, all the best. Thank you for showing me. And I move away. And then I just sit and I watch the show because I keep seeing them proving just how mean they can be. And again, it's up to you to keep getting triggered by the meanness or just say, okay, cool, how does it get any better than this? And move and choose something greater for yourself. So that's how it shows up. Now, coming back to the self-rejector part of it, we tend to play along, or we tend to limit all that we can be creating because we want to fit in with the very people who are rejecting us. Okay, and it's very, very deep. It stems from maybe from our childhood or from different incidents. Some people are very, very sensitive and they tend to hold on to that hurt for such a long time, and then they keep on stopping themselves from being too much because others will not really like that. So it shows up like that. Okay. So, Samyukta, the only thing is out-create. Once you're aware people are judging you, just because they're judging doesn't mean you have to stop yourself. Subconsciously, if you're stopping, ask what is the internal rejector that I'm putting into play? Which one of the internal rejectors is showing up right now? And what do I have to be, and you go out create that. And allow that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. What else? So let me just start this again. Okay. So when we experience rejection, we subconsciously think that we have one hope of actually maintaining alignment with the people that we need and love, the very ones that are rejecting us. And that way is to triangulate ourselves against ourselves. Okay. So what we do is we split our consciousness so that one part of us pushes the rest of us away, so as to gain rapport and alignment with the person rejecting us by the virtue of having a common enemy. Okay. Only this time the enemy is us. We are our own enemies. We become our own enemies so that we can choose to align with the person who's rejecting us, okay, or with the people who are rejecting us. So you keep making yourself wrong. So, as seemingly backward as it sounds, we tend to create a part of us that is protecting us, specifically by rejecting us. Okay. So what are we doing? We are creating an internal rejector. Now, the goal of this part is not actually to destroy you. Even though that's what starts happening, most often that's what starts happening in the long run. But the goal of this part is literally the following. Okay. One, it is more painful when someone else does something to you than when you do it to yourself. Okay. So what are we doing? To take the power, we're taking the power away from those who would reject you by internalizing rejection. Okay. Beating them to the punch and doing it preemptively is experienced as less painful. Now, to give an example, it's like if you have a certain judgment about your weight. So and if you're going to meet people, suppose you're going to meet your friends and they're all very slim and nice, and you have a judgment about your weight, then you know that one of them might comment on your weight. So before they can comment on your weight, you will only make fun of yourself and you laugh at yourself and you put yourself down and just say, yeah, my weight, this. And we do it very subconsciously. And sometimes we do it unknowingly, but it is that internal rejector at play. And in fact, I myself just did it just 2 days ago. Yesterday, when I put out a video and I saw that video was much way slimmer, and I was like, okay, I need to work on myself. So you do it sometimes just so subconsciously, but before anybody else can comment on you, you only comment, or basically what you're doing is literally taking the power away from them. Right? So before anyone else can call you a failure in your business, you will only make sure you keep failing and giving excuses and reasons why you're not creating, so that you take away the power from others and create yourself as whatever. Okay. Yes. This way, basically, you're trying to make it less painful for you, but end of the day, you're sabotaging yourself. Okay. Now, the second one is.
Can I share something in that regards?
Yes, go ahead.
So when a guest comes, no, I to avoid any awkward question or the question which will be very scrutinizing, I keep on talking. I don't receive silence. I keep on talking, and I praise them, which I don't want to use that word, which I don't like to do it also. And they praise that, and of course, when you do butter someone, no, they are going to, "अरे मैं ये करता हूँ, वो करता हूँ," and we are doing that. And I have noticed so many times they don't even ask me what I do, and so this is okay. Thank you for bringing this up, that I do not receive silence, you know, and also self sabotage myself this way also.
So what you're doing is, in that silence, they might pass a comment on you. So to avoid that, you don't give them the opportunity to speak. So how much of self-judgments are you actually functioning from that is preventing you from receiving the gift of you? So if you don't see the gift of you, nobody else will see that. Right? So highlight everything good about you to yourself. Okay? And when you own it, then you'll be comfortable allowing other people to talk about that also.
And I think myself is very smart that, I make them talk about themselves so that I don't have to talk. But this is also a way of self-sabotaging I had yet to acknowledge.
Imagine you are just getting information out from them. That's okay. It's okay. Also, you need to also acknowledge that a lot of people keep talking about themselves, and we don't really have enough people listening to them. So if you're being that and holding that space for them, I don't think there's anything wrong in that. So, but if you are rejecting yourself, that's something you need to work on. And maybe with what you just shared, you might have just realized that somewhere I've been rejecting myself. Then that's one thing that you can look at and see, okay, what are my own judgments about myself, and how do I outclaim that, and what's the value of choosing that.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for bringing up this topic.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So so the second one is, like, it is done to maintain connection with those who originally rejected you and who may currently be rejecting you by agreeing with them about yourself, right? So suppose your dad says that, ये business नहीं कर सकता, so and so cannot work, and now is not going to succeed in business ever, because maybe you're choosing a profession that's not what your dad wanted you to choose. So he will keep on projecting that you're not good in business, or you'll never succeed. So you keep on constantly self-sabotaging your creations. You will not show up very dynamically because somewhere subconsciously you are aligning with the opinion that your dad has about you. Okay, just to prove him right. And you're doing it subconsciously, you're not doing it deliberately, but somewhere that's your connection with him. Okay, so that's just an example of how things can show up. Now, the third point is to cause you to withdraw or isolate so as to avoid the constant pain of disapproval of not being able to do anything to change the parts of yourself are being rejected. So what you'll do is you constantly withdraw or isolate, right? So suppose there's a parent-teacher meeting, or suppose there's a project going on in your school, but if you are thinking, oh my God, I've put on weight and I'm not really looking good and I look so disheveled and stuff, who's going to dress up and go, and then everybody else will be so smartly turned out? You will avoid going for your own child's project or whatever it is that your child is working hard on, because you cannot bring yourself to deal with other people's judgments about you. But what you're not realizing is that's your own judgment about yourself. And someday you're rejecting yourself, but you're also rejecting your own child based on that. Okay. Now, The fourth one is to get you to stop doing what is getting you rejected when you can. Okay. So what will happen is the internal self-rejector is similar to the inner critic in that it is established in the response to the exact same experience. Only except the self-critic is designed to alter your behavior to conform to what will get you acceptance. Okay. So there's a little difference. Self-critic will alter your behavior to conform to what will get you accepted. Whereas the self-rejector is designed to get the external rejection to stop, no matter the consequence to the self. So, self-critic, did you notice the difference between that? Self-critic is just basically trying to fit in with to make you be and show up as whatever is accepted. But the internal self-rejector is where you'll keep on sabotaging yourself so dynamically that just to sort of to control other people's behavior or control over their behavior, gain power over their behavior. So you will literally keep on sabotaging yourself very dynamically. Okay. And that doesn't really create much. Okay. So let me give you an example for you to understand this. So let's take an example of a boy named Aditya. Okay. Now, Aditya's father left when he was 2 years old. Okay. And his mom hated him because his father had left. Now, she started demanding that Aditya becomes exactly what she needed. Why? Because so that she could lean on him like a surrogate husband. Okay. Now, his whole life, Aditya felt as if his father could not have left until the truth was he was worthless. Right? So he kept thinking my father left because he was worthless. And his mother's constant rants about men and the demand for him to be exactly how she wanted him to be made him feel as if he was not only rejected by his dad, but also by his mother. Aditya felt that his dad had left because Aditya was worthless. Okay. And now he thinks my dad also rejected me, and now my mom is also rejected. Now, the vulnerable part of himself that experienced all of this abandonment and hate against his maleness and deliberate molding so that he could be something else, tried to get the rejection to stop by creating an internal rejector. So that's what he did. He started creating an internal rejector for himself. Okay. So what happens is, over the course of his life, this part has actually managed to keep him safer by taking the heat away from people's conflict with him and pacify them by agreeing with everything bad that they say about him. It's literally that point of creation, right? When we assume or think that there's something wrong about us, and so we go on to prove to not only to ourselves but to others also how bad we are at a particular job or a particular thing or a particular subject. So now by doing that, it has managed to get him to stop doing things that would make it so that he's all alone. Okay. Now it's also managed to get him to be able to stay a part of his family, and it's managed to get him to live by himself so that he can be himself and not be living directly with people who will actually keep on inevitably rejecting him. Okay. So let's look at the downside to the sabotaging strategy. What happens? Aditya was actually a budding tennis star. Okay. And his first international tournament, he won. But unlike other players, when he won, his family was nowhere to be seen. And all his friends, feeling really bad about their loss, did not celebrate his win. So he felt more rejected for winning than he did for losing. Now, as I'm talking about all this, start looking at all those places where you're being this energy, and you've been this energy with your creations, with your relationships, with your body, with your businesses. Just keep paying attention to it and keep on reflecting on all those places where you are being the internal rejector, and what could be some like such silly causes, but it has such deep impact on you. Okay. So he felt more rejected for winning than he felt for losing. And as a result, Aditya chose to quit being a tennis player and he decided to deliberately lose matches. And then he quit to be a coach of other winners instead. Now, why did he do that? Basically, believing that no one will actually value and love the real him, Aditya has never put energy into figuring out his truth and his genuine desires. So he does not know who he really is. His relationships he established his relationship based on more on codependency. I'll be talking about narcissism and codependency. Maybe one of the calls I'll be doing on that. It's something really, really interesting that's come up, and lots of things to discuss on that also. So what he does is he gets into relationships by figuring out what will get him approval and cause people to want him, and then starts conforming to that. Okay. But the thing is, any time you're trying to be something or pretending to be something, you can't keep it up for long. Okay. So he can't keep it up long term. So what happens is he ends up going into incompatible relationships and inevitably be rejected anytime his real colors come out. Okay. So when people have issues with him and shame him, he agrees with them about himself. And what is he doing in the bargain? He's reinforcing his internal rejection. Okay. Now, instead of examining whether he genuinely wants to change something about himself or doing so in a way that is for himself instead of against himself. Okay. Or instead of really positively owning that thing about himself and putting himself in a compatible situation to it, he starts feeling guilt, feels he should change, and he puts actual energy into changing and tries to overcompensate by doing something else unrelated that will give him approval. Now, those of you who are actually coaches and who conduct classes and stuff, how many times do you overgive yourself? How many times do you extend what you can do for people? Like you just all the time constantly giving. So how many self-rejecting patterns do you have in place that are preventing you from actually acknowledging your worth and value? Where you think only when people will appreciate you for giving too much is when you feel justified or validated. Everything that brought up times a concilium will be destroyed and it will please write down the paragraph of let your voice forward. And it can literally show up as even when you're gifting something to someone, like a birthday gift or something else. So you will go ahead and buy the most expensive thing, or you will go ahead. It's basically overcompensating. Everything that brought up, let's destroy an untrained thought, like not with bad word, or let's show voice forward. So what happens is, he's actually, like we're talking about Aditya here, this example. So when he's doing this, he's actively engaged in self-suppression 24/7. How many of you are doing that? How many of you 24/7 keep on self-suppressing yourself? And what is it creating for you? Just be present to that, okay? And now, so a person like this, let's take, for example, it's us, okay? We are these people. Let's take, for example. So what we'll do is, we keep on disassociating in our relationships because that way it will keep us close to the people that we love, but also distance ourselves from the pain of their rejection at the same time, okay? So you will keep on disassociating in your relationships. Just enough to keep yourself close to the people that you love, but just enough to prevent yourself from experiencing the pain of their rejection. Okay. So what we'll end up doing is sabotaging our life and our relationships over and over and over again, because this protector of ours is willing to do anything else damaging just to avoid external rejection or to get other people's rejection to stop. So we constantly keep on self-rejecting ourselves. This is In a way, we think we are protecting ourselves. Okay, this is our way of protecting ourselves, but we are creating more harm. Okay, so when you have an internal self-rejector as a protector part, you'll be so concerned with getting the external rejection to stop or avoiding it, you will not embark on the process of self-discovery so as to be authentic. So you will keep on, you end up putting yourself in very incompatible situations that people will inevitably reject you because you're only choosing that. So you'll end up choosing or creating a business which will be totally incompatible with what the true you are is, and obviously you will fail at it, and that will give people closest to you another reason to reject you. Okay, you think you're protecting yourself, but you're rejecting yourself, and others also rejecting you. So it's just a pattern that you seem to be stuck in, and that's not really creating anything. How to overcome it? You have to start becoming really present to all those places you have put internal self-rejector in place, or you can also call him an eternal jailer. Okay, we have a whole lot of clearings for eternal jailer. We can do that. All those places where every time you're about to soar, you'll have an internal jailer in place who can be yourself also, and you sabotage things, or you'll have certain people who will literally clip your wings with you, or say or judge you so much that you stop everything that you were using to soar. Okay. Now, it's basically a setup from the get-go. Okay. Also, not only that, this is your only familiar way of interacting socially, and therefore the only social situation that you feel comfortable in, where you keep rejecting and you keep agreeing with others who are rejecting you. Okay? Now, on top of this, because of the law of mirroring, which is also called the law of attraction, when you have an internal self-rejector, you will be a match to people who keep rejecting you. So because that's the whole thing in your environment, you're also inviting people in your space who are constantly rejecting you. Look at what you're creating. So if you at any time feel really, really rejected, or you feel people don't understand you, or all the times you're self-sabotaging yourself, look at what is it that's being created and what is it creating in your world for you. Okay? Now, so what else? What else can I talk about? Does anyone have any questions? Anything that's going on for you guys? Anything I can help facilitate with you? No? Everybody's quiet. Anything going on? Every place there. Yes, sorry. Good. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi. So, yeah, so this pattern of self-sabotage has been there for a long while in many different areas, so it has reduced in a lot of different things. So I am just looking at this one aspect of doing things in the last minute, okay, knowing very well that if I can just do a little earlier, it will be so much more ease. And then many times not doing that at all because it is too late now. So I'm just looking at how do I do this clearing using this particular information that you have given? Can you just frame anyone? Because this new thing, this internal self-rejector. So if you can just help me.
Question in a different way. Can you ask?
No, I'm looking, there's this pattern of self-sabotage that I have about doing things in the last minute. Though even if I have a lot of time, I would purposefully create something or the other where I would inevitably find myself short of time and I need to rush into things. And then I end up creating like 5 times less than what I can create. Like I can give so much more quality.
So sometimes you are accepting creating, say, corrupted version of what all you can actually be creating, or a mediocre version. So you,
Yeah.
first of all, you're accepting, you're allowing that to show up. Like you're okay creating a mediocre version. Okay, that's why it's not inspiring you to create so much. The moment you set your expectations higher, when you are like, okay, nothing but the best, then you will work towards it. Okay. Now, everywhere you've decided that you can't create last minute, or if you create last minute, that will be substandard thing. Will you not destroy and undo that? Like from good bad hot online point go as how much are you already energetically creating? And what if you are one of those people who actually follow the energy and speaks to that energy? And based on that, you're creating enough for what is required for those people. You get it?
Yeah, I see that part.
Like I'll give an example with the fast track your business. I had things lined up, everything planned out, everything sorted, right? But then when I start the class, again, I start following the energy of what is required to get each person to propel each one of them to the greatest heights. So then it's not a cutthroat, precise thing. Sometimes the calls extend, sometimes the fast track calls go on for months, right? So where is that getting created from? It's okay to follow the energy because end of the day, if you're honoring what you are choosing to create, and if that means deviating from the normal, it's okay, right? So what you are thinking is, I've created only this much. What if you realize that the people you're creating it for were willing to receive only that much? What if you acknowledge that you were perceiving an energy and creating based on that? So if you look at how each class that you conduct is very, very different, right? So some classes are very brilliant with so many questions, there's so much awareness, so much shows up in those classes. Then there are also certain classes which are like people are just staring blankly at you and you're just reading from the book. And then you wonder, okay, what the hell was this class all about? Right? So there, it is like that. So if you constantly keep judging yourself, that's not going to create. So there are times when these kind of classes have happened also, and I'm like, okay, let me do this, let me do that, because I don't feel satiated enough or whatever. I don't feel I've done a good job, right? Because everybody has just been staring and not asking any questions. So I feel they've not received the class enough. But what if you realize that that's all that they were asking for? I remember conducting a talk to the entity class. There were these 3 guys, okay? And the class was conducted in this room only. One was literally sleeping on the sofa, one was on the floor, and one was just sitting on the chair and dozing. All 3 of them were dozing off, okay? And now I'm like, what the hell? Who am I even conducting the class for? There were 3 of them, all 3 of them were sleeping. And I was like, am I so boring? What's going on? And then I just continued conducting the class, reading and explaining, because I was like, they will someday, if they want, they will listen to the recording. But finally I said, hold on, what's going on? They were, all 3 of them were sleeping. So sometimes it shows up like that. What if, but all 3 of them created a lot of change in their life. So you think they're sleeping, but what if the being is still receiving? Right? So what if you do not judge yourself? And okay, this is the project, you've created something for it right now. And then for the next project, you can add this and add the other things that you wanted to. When you realize that your work is constant creation and motion, then you can just keep on adding to it constantly and not judge yourself for, oh, I haven't done enough. What you did at that moment was follow the energy and created only what were the people attending it were willing to receive. Okay?
Yeah. So I get this part, and I think I'm becoming present to a couple of areas where I've been judging instead of seeing that is what was required. However, I'm specifically asking this question with regards to this particular topic that we have today, that its role. So I was just wondering how that part, the internal rejector, is playing around in this particular aspect. So I do see this part that you spoke about, but can you just share
Okay,
some
let's take for example. So recently you put out something of your own that you were like, you launched some product of your own. Okay. Now there's a lot of creation that was required for it. And you did manage to get some things in place and a lot of things not yet in place. Okay. Now, once you put it out everywhere, you invited people to be part of it. Okay. Then guess what? You also were receiving a lot of projections from people, right? Those are subconsciously, energetically, you receive those projections. Okay, you're psychic SpongeBob, you understand when others are projecting certain things at you. So now your internal rejector comes into play. So you will create only very bare minimum to align with other people's projections of your creation. Because what if that creation is an instant hit with people? Not many people will be able to take it. So before they can reject you, why not you only reject yourself? Do you see? So all the big plans that you had for that creation, you sabotage it and you make it just enough to launch it, but not grand enough to fit in with what you had envisioned it to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm saying 2 days before, just 1 day or 2 days, so the people don't get even time to even take a call. Give them a space of scheduling their work or scheduling their time. So yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. So everything that brought up times are conciliant. Let's destroy and uncreate it all. Right, from good, bad, what for, potential, boys, poets, and beyond. Every time you put out your products or your services, and then you perceive other people's judgments and their projections, and then you go into hiding. And suddenly your product or whatever you had put it out is no longer visible, not just to others, even to yourself. What are you doing? You've got your internal rejector to literally come into play and go into, like, make sure that you go into hiding energetically also, so that basically your internal rejector withdraws all the energy from all your creations, and then now nobody can find you or your product. Literally, even if you have to look for it, you have to search very hard, right? So sometimes that shows up. I was looking for my YouTube channel and I typed my name and I was like, okay, I should find it with my name, right? I couldn't. And I'm like, what just happened? Why? I could find other people's YouTube channels, but my channel I couldn't figure out. And I tried whatever I could, and there was another way in which I could log on to my channel, but that was there. But if I had to forward to anybody, or if anybody had to search for my channel, they couldn't find it with my name. Much later, after months of trying to figure out what's going on, even my daughter said, Mom, it's on my name. So it was on her name for some weird reason. So when I typed her name, then it would lead to my channel. So, sometimes that internal rejector creates all these things so that you don't show up that dynamically. And then you wonder what's going on. So that's in place. Yes, Samyukta, go ahead.
So my question is, you were just answering, Swami. See, when we launch something, our intention is for it to become a hit. That is why we launch it. But then what is this internal rejector doing there? Because you want a hit. You don't want to hide. But then, yes, the hiding also happens. I sense that
the internal rejector thinks it's very important to align with other people's judgments and projections of you, and where they are insecure about you being too much. So the internal rejector comes into play and says, hold on, I'll take care of this, and I'll make sure nobody gets to judge you, and they feel safe around you, and they feel so it'll take you into hiding, and will hide your products, will not let you launch in a dynamic way, and then you feel, what the hell did I just do? I'm a failure. And the internal rejector says, yes, you are a failure. And then that way, everybody around you feels safe and nice because they don't need to outcreate you. So everything that brought up, times a quadrillion. Let's destroy and uncreate it all, right from good, bad, what, all natural boys, and beyonds. So what other examples of internal rejectors can you give me? You do it in relationships. You do it in a lot of other things. And then you wonder, I'm trying my best. Why isn't things showing up? Like if the husband is insecure about you creating or out-creating him, because then he feels you won't be dependent on him, and then you might leave him. Okay? So guess what? No matter how many times you keep trying, you will make sure you don't create more money than him, or you don't create at all. You keep trying, but you're not creating enough, because that way he gets to feel safe, and then you aligned with him. So the internal rejector is your way of protecting yourself by aligning with people who actually are not really wishing well for you because of their own insecurities. It's not that they don't care about you, but at times they are highly insecure, so they'd rather you don't be too successful. Not that they don't want you to be successful, but still they have the fear that if you become too successful, you might leave them. So those of you who are going through that, everything that brought up, you destroy and uncreate it all, right from good, bad, what, all natural boys, and beyonds. So cool. I think that's what the call was today, for you guys to realize where are you bringing in your internal self-rejectors in place. It's the internal self-rejector is literally an attempt to stop suffering and pain from happening. But what you realize later is all those attempts to avoid that kind of pain only lands us in another kind of pain. Okay? So the internal self-rejector is actually harming you even more. You get it? Everything that brought up, will you destroy and uncreate it all, right from good, bad, what, book, natural boys, and beyonds. Any other question? Does anyone have any other question? Yeah, Swami, go ahead.
So it looks like this internal rejector is our enemy, but in a way it is a friend, right? It's actually trying to protect us, but its approach is not working for us.
It's the other way around. The internal rejector is actually your way of protecting yourself, but you're harming yourself in the bargain. The internal rejector, that part of you thinks that you're protecting yourself by agreeing and aligning and showing up with everyone and being on the same page as everyone. So your innermost desires don't really come out into play. So you lead your life very, very suppressed. So it's actually harming you. But it's a way of rejecting or making fun of yourself or rejecting you before anybody else can do that. So you will walk out of a relationship because somewhere you fear that the other person might reject us, so let us only leave. So if you've left, then you can't blame anyone else, and you feel you've safeguarded yourself. How many people do that in their relationships?
Big time.
Yeah. So that's their way of protecting themselves, but they're actually harming. Also, we're not willing to be present with what actually is going on. So you tend to, how do I put it? It's like you're creating a sort of a safety net for the fall.
Yeah.
So that's what the self rejector does.
So what should be our, what should be the attitude towards this? So I get the clearing part. We do the clearing.
So basically, to realize where are those places where you have put the self rejector in place, and do you really need that self rejector? Do you really need to be protected? Can't you deal with anything that shows up? And all those places where you're self-sabotaging, is that working for you? So they're all being done subconsciously. And when you become present to that, now you know you can out-create that and choose, make a different choice.
So it's like recognizing that this choice that I am choosing, that I think I'm doing on my behalf, is actually against me, and I'm not when you choose this? So it's more of a so this is
it is recognizing why am I choosing that. Like I gave you that example of Aditya that I gave, right?
Yeah.
There was nobody to say anything about to celebrate his win, so he thought he's not worth it. So he just sort of kept on, made sure he loses the rest of the matches, and then he becomes a coach for other winners, because that way he finds that when at least those people appreciate him because he's coaching them to win. Do you get it?
Yeah.
All those, so it's more about seeing your own worth and value. It's also about all those places in your childhood where you felt rejected, where you tried to fit in with people. Like, so actually a lot I've already spoken about in the Getting Out of Debt Joyfully call. That, so the whole context of that was, it started from that, which was the call before this. So that was all supposed to be part of this call, but like it showed up there, so I don't want to really repeat that. But it's like, you know, when a friend turns against you and starts boycotting you and make sure other friends also boycott you, it's sort of like a gaslighting system that gets set in place. So you have two choices: either to just slow down and match up with them, or keep trying to justify, hey, this is not how it happened, and this is what you're thinking, but this is not true, and try your best to literally stop everything that you've been being, because that way they will sort of accept you back in their group and all. Or you say, hold on, cool, you want to leave? Thank you. And say, and then say, even if there's nobody there in the world, I'm going to be there for myself. And then say, okay, what needs to change here? What do I have to be into to outcreate all this? And then also work on all those unhealed bits and broken pieces of you. Those little fragments that are floating around, those are all you. Okay? And sometimes those fragments are the ones which actually start creating these issues for you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Cool.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you again. I hope this call contributed.
Yes.
It showed up a little differently than what I had envisioned it, but then what else is possible? And how many people's universes was I tapping into at this moment? Anyways, how does it get any better? Cool. I'll see you for the next thing. Just let me know what all topics you'd like me to talk about, and we'll create another call. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.